program you're looking for to be over as quickly as possible. We had an incredible year, and I think as an office, that's what I'm speaking for. And I just want to say congratulations to all of you who had an exceptional year, both agents and service team, management, and I owe a lot to you guys. I was thinking about the reasons that I'm up here. I feel very blessed. I have a number of blessings that are here in the room, in no particular order, namely my family, co-workers, dear friends, business partners. Again, the service staff and management have just been so wonderful to me. I want to tell you a quick story. Back in 2015, my wife and I had an opportunity to travel to Europe for 3 weeks without our minor children. And as we all recommend our clients do, we consulted an attorney and to get a trust in place so that any assets that were left behind if my wife and I passed away, that the kids would be taken care of. And so we were doing the trust and the will, sitting in the attorney's office, and I was writing my name, just signing my name. I got 2 signatures in, and all of a sudden I started to feel really strange. And I heard a little voice in my head say, "You're creating a problem for your children." And so I dropped the pen, and I sat for a second. I thought, how am I creating a problem for my kids? This is what we tell people to do all the time. This is the responsible thing. And so I asked the attorney, I said, is there any reason that I'd be feeling uncomfortable? Is this the best thing we can do? And the attorney said, yeah, this is what everybody does. And I said, so remind me, when our kids are raised, and let's say there's a lot of money that gets dumped on them, what's going to happen to that money? And he said, well, normally when they're 18, they just inherit it, but with the trust, we've moved that out to age 25. And I said, well, have you ever met an irresponsible 25-year-old? And he said, yeah, I have. He laughed a little bit, and he said, maybe 30 or 35 would be better. And I said, I've met people in their 50s and 60s that are very irresponsible financially. So maybe age isn't the best thing to determine whether somebody's good with money. Anyway, we talked a little bit after that, but I could never forget that feeling I had and that little voice that I heard in my head. And we signed the trust just as is, because that's what everybody does, and I never thought anything to it after that. A few years later, I got a phone call from an attorney in Provo who had called the 800 number and wanted to meet with the New York Life agent. So I went down there, I met with him, we got to know each other, and he said, I want to buy as much whole life as I can on myself, my kids, and my wife. Can you help me? I said, well, of course, that's what we do. But why? What have you heard about whole life? What's your purpose? He said, well, I'm creating a family bank, and I need your help to do it. I said, what's a family bank? So he told me it's this ingenious way that he could put money aside for himself and his family, where it could serve as an emergency reserve, it could provide funding for investments that he was going to do, and it could help him help his children in the future as they were trying to get their lives going, purchase homes, start businesses, do college, whatever it may be, and help him in retirement. He could use this money as a supplement for his retirement stuff, and last but not least, it would only help him and his children, but it would help his grandchildren and his great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren. And I felt something when I was talking to him that, wow, there is a very important, very special concept in this that I need to learn more about. So I went about to many libraries, I went on Amazon, I bought every book I could. I spent hours in front of YouTube researching this term, the family bank. And I couldn't find very much on it. I found a guy by the name of Garrett Gunderson, we've all got to meet yesterday, who wrote a very good book, What Would the Rockefellers Do? And I think I read that about 7 or 8 times, truth be known. And I loved that book, and it inspired me to do even more research, but I just couldn't find enough. So one day I had my brother-in-law, who is a remarkable human being. He's a lecturer and a writer. He's written several New York Times bestsellers, said, "You need to write a book on this." And I said, "I don't know, I'm not a writer. I'm just a civilian. I'm teaching people about this idea of a family bank that is transformative and help people. But I don't know anything about writing." He says, "No, you're a great writer. I've read your emails." He says, "You get into this." And so I started writing a book, and it started writing itself. It was the craziest thing. I spent about 6 months, almost full-time, writing it. Those 6 months were pretty lean. I had 3 major cases that I was working on that were well over 100,000 FYC. And at the very end, none of them came through. And I was, in my dad's words, about to drink canal water. I was not doing very well. And then things started to change a little bit. We got pregnant with our twins, children 7 and 8. Yes, we're a big family. And we brought them home from the hospital. And I wasn't quite sure how we would pay the medical bills, to be honest. We had max loaned all of our policies that we own, and I'm an insurance guy, so we have a lot of policies. And we had tapped all the resources we could that were not going to cause serious problems. And 2 days after we brought those twins home, I got a phone call from one of my biggest clients' secretary. Who said, "Do you remember that case you guys have been talking about for several years that he ought to convert some of his term? They'd like to talk to you about that some more." So I had an opportunity to present to him some numbers, again, all on the idea of the family bank. He'd read my book, and he's a wonderful friend. And that's honestly one of the big reasons that I'm standing here right now is because of that case, but there were others over the years. What I want to leave you with is a question. It's a question that I pose almost everybody I meet. And that is, what can you do in your lifetime that will last 1,000 years? Is there anything you can do? And if you think about history, there are very few things that anybody's ever been able to do that actually lasted. There's some remarkable buildings in Egypt, the pyramids, that have lasted thousands of years. There's a few other buildings, but how many buildings are out there that are older than 1,000 years? There's some notable individuals in history that are older than 1,000 years that we still know today. But I had an experience. We were doing some filming for a YouTube video, and the producer was a dear friend, and he said, "Numbers maybe talk to me about stuff like this. Like, I've never heard anybody talk about estate planning and money the way you do." And I said, "Yeah, this is the most remarkable thing." I said, "Tom, you may not ever meet your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren, but they can know who you are. They'll be able to hear your voice, and they will honor you because you'll put in place a system like this that not only helps them be financially independent, but also passes on your values, your traditions, your memories, your relationships. The money and all that's valuable, but those values and other things, those are priceless. You can pass on both of those more effectively if you set up a system like we're talking about." And tears started to come to his eyes and mine too. And I realized there's something a lot more important to this than just earning money. I've heard people say there's 3 motivations for doing things. Number 1, you do it out of fear. A lot of us are here because we're just trying to survive. We're just trying to make money, and this is a great business to make money in. If you're good at sales and you're good at making connections, this is a great career. The second is people who are trying to prosper. People who are not only surviving well, but they're trying to get ahead of everybody else. And they're trying to amass as many resources as they can. And again, this is a great business to do that in. But the highest tier of those motivations is love. And the analogous thing to that is service. If you can get to a place in your career where you wake up every day and your primary reason is just to serve, you won't have to worry about money. It will just come. And you'll be doing the right thing by other people, and you'll be filled with greater satisfaction than you can imagine. again, I want to just thank you for listening to me and honoring me with this award, and congratulations to all of you. And if you have any questions for me about the system I've been doing and trying to sell, I'll talk your ear off for hours, so I won't go into it this venue, but I'd be happy to talk to you another time. Thank you very much.